Hello everyone. Today we're going to read King Midas and the Golden Touch, retold by Barbara Baumgartner and illustrated by Amanda Hall. Long ago, in the country of Greece, there lived a king named Midas. He was proud of his palace and his beautiful gardens, but most of all he was proud of his 7-year-old daughter whose name was Marigold. King Midas was a rich man, but he was not a happy man. He longed for more gold so that he could buy fancier foods and prettier dresses for his daughter. Sometimes he would sit in his counting room, carefully counting out his piles of gold coins, gold necklaces, and gold bracelets. One day, when King Midas was in his counting room, his little daughter Marigold knocked on the door. "Father," she said, "it's such a pretty day. Come and have a picnic with me in the warm golden sun." King Midas did not open the door, but spoke gruffly to her. "No, Marigold, I'm busy right now." He could hear Marigold's footsteps walking away from the locked door. A few minutes later, King Midas looked up. There, standing in front of him, was a stranger dressed in a golden robe. The stranger smiled at him. King Midas thought to himself, "How did this stranger enter through the locked door? Perhaps he is a messenger of the gods." "Yes, sir, what can I do for you?" he asked the stranger. The stranger said, "Midas, I have come to grant you a wish. What do you choose?" King Midas thought to himself, "How can I become the richest man in the world?" Then he had an idea. He said to the stranger, "I wish that everything I touch would turn to gold." "Aha," said the stranger, "the golden touch. Your wish is granted. Tomorrow morning you will have the golden touch." Thank you, said King Midas as he bowed to the stranger. When he looked up, the stranger had disappeared. That night, King Midas could hardly sleep, thinking about how rich he would be once he had the golden touch. When he awoke the next morning, the sun was shining through the window. King Midas touched his blue blanket, and suddenly it shimmered with gold, but was still soft and warm. King Midas leaped out of bed. He began running around his room, touching things to see them change to gold. He touched the chair, the bedpost, the table, and they all turned gold. As he dressed himself, all his clothes turned to gold. King Midas was so excited that he went out to his garden. He began touching all the flowers so that the red poppies and the tall blue flowers all glittered gold. Then he went into his house to eat. One of the servants brought him a plate of fruit, bread, and cheese. King Midas was hungry. As he picked up the knife to slice the cheese, the knife turned to gold. He was so excited. Why, now everything in this house could be gold. But when his fingers touched the cheese, it turned to a lump of gold. Then King Midas tried to slice the bread, but it also turned to gold. He picked up an apple, and it turned to gold. Now King Midas began to grumble to himself. "I don't see how I'll stay alive if I can't eat anything. I'll starve to death in a few days." Just then Marigold came running into the room. She was clutching a golden flower and crying. "Father," she said, "something terrible has happened to the flowers. They have turned this nasty yellow color and they don't smell good anymore." King Midas reached out to hug Marigold, and she turned to gold. He was horrified. His dear daughter was a solid gold statue with golden tears on her cheeks. As he groaned out loud, King Midas looked up and saw the stranger who had visited him the day before. The stranger smiled at him and said, "Well, King Midas, what do you think of the golden touch?" "Oh, I am miserable," he said. "The golden touch has only brought me bad luck. I cannot eat because everything I touch turns to gold, and now I have turned my sweet daughter Marigold into a golden statue." "Which would you rather have?" asked the stranger, "the golden touch or a slice of bread?" King Midas said, "I would rather be able to eat a piece of bread than to have all the gold in the world." "Which would you rather have?" asked the stranger, "the golden touch or your daughter Marigold alive and breathing as she was an hour ago?" "No one is more dear to me than she is," said King Midas. "Yes, I would rather have her than the golden touch." "You have grown wiser in one day," said the stranger. "Bathe in the river that flows past your garden. The water will cleanse you of the golden touch, and bring a pitcher of the water to sprinkle over your daughter." King Midas thanked the stranger, Then he grabbed a clay pitcher, which immediately turned to gold, and hurried to the river. As he bathed in the river, his clothes changed back to their normal color. Even the pitcher is changing. When he dipped the pitcher in the water, it lost its golden color and was again clay. Then he carried the water to his house, and he began sprinkling it on Marigold. She immediately lost her golden color, and her cheeks grew rosy again. She began to sneeze and cough. "Father," she laughed, "stop sprinkling me with water." King Midas led her out to the garden, where he sprinkled water on the flowers, so that the red poppies and the tall blue flowers once again danced in the sun. And the moral: greed destroys human happiness. Thanks for listening, and I suspect King Midas made many trips to the river before his house was normal again.